When the dualism of being and non-being is abandoned, there is neither bothness nor not-bothness. And going beyond Sravakahood and Pratyekabuddhahood, one will even pass over the seventh stage. So back to talking about the bhumis again. The seventh stage refers to the seventh bhumi. And I've spoken about bhumis before on several occasions. If you want to check up on it, video 78 is on the 10 bhumis, video 78, and video 77 is on the 11 bhumis. So the seventh stage is called gone afar. In the previous verse we were hearing about revulsion, how we get to that point where the attention is more inclined to rest in itself than to go outwards. And this is the nature of your practice when it's going well. The attention is happy to rest in itself, because everything else is a tawdry option. Everything that the mind might dwell on, everything that we might occupy our thoughts with, is a tawdry option, and we're just not interested in it anymore. This is the nature of the seventh stage. It says beyond being and non-being, and this is beyond the dynamic of our sensibilities. This dynamic which is always wanting to define itself in relation to other people, in relation to the world, it doesn't even factor in anymore. This is being and non-being. We're not concerned with who I am anymore. Who I am in relation to others. We're not concerned with that. We're not concerned with our standing in the world. Who I am and who I'm not. This is being and not being. And even more than this, we're not concerned with either bothness or not bothness. We're not even thinking of this dynamic anymore. This is the bothness, the dynamic between me and others. This is bothness. And we're not even pushing aside that dynamic anymore. We're not struggling against it. This is not bothness. So this is the joy of the seventh bhumi. It's not a struggle at this point, because it's obvious. We do what is giving the greatest happiness, and that is spiritual practice. There's no struggle anymore. The attention still has to go out and engage through the course of normal behavior, just as the moon's projection goes out and reflects on the water, as was described in the previous verse. So it still goes out, but there is still this stillness. We're told that we go beyond Sravakahood and Pratyekabuddhahood. And the Sravaka is the one who earnestly follows the disciplines of the Buddha's teachings, particularly the ethical teachings, the moral training. In verse 876 we are talk of the splitting up of moral conduct, because this isn't our focus anymore. It all follows naturally. Our moral conduct is not something we have to practice anymore, because we're in touch with the intrinsic purity of consciousness, of awareness. And Pratyekabuddhahood is the one who realizes some kind of liberation through meditation. And we don't need to bother about that anymore. We don't need to bother about ethical practice. We don't need to bother about formal meditation. All of these keep us on a fairly even keel when we haven't got access to insight. But once we've got access to insight, that's the driving force. That is our centre of gravity. We have gone past the 7th stage of gone afar. This is when we have easy access to the equipoise of the realization of the nature of the awareness that is hearing this, the awareness that is hearing this. We come back to the still essence of awareness. So this is what we practice. Verse 881 continues with talk of the stages. As he goes up through the stages, his insight into the truth of self-realization will be purified at every stage, and releasing himself from externality as well as from the philosophers, he will discourse on the Mahayana. So we don't need to worry about the details of these stages. You can look into them for inspiration. But the point is, spiritual practice is practice. It's something that needs to be done in the sense of being realized anew. It's not something that you actually do. It's about waking up, and waking up more and more often. You're never going to be 100% awake. Well, that's not my understanding anyway. That's not how I see it. But there's always the opportunity to be more and more awake. And sometimes we must remember, no, we're going to crash. Crash terribly, but that doesn't matter. None of that matters, because that's getting caught up in bothness. Bothness and not-bothness. Being and non-being. So there's talk here of being purified at every stage. And this purification is greater and greater appreciation of what we have access to. This is the important point. It's what a great number of the Mahayana sutras are really about. You know, the truly cosmic ones. They're about appreciation of this miraculous phenomenon that we're actually in touch with right now, known as being aware, or simply awareness. When we appreciate this, we are releasing ourselves from externality. We are no longer taking our cue, not just from our sensibilities. We're no longer taking our cue from the external world. We're no longer taking our cue from our own sensibilities, because we've realized that our happiness is not dependent on it, not dependent on the world, and not dependent on our sensibilities. Realization of the nature of awareness is the door to unconditional happiness, unconditional joy. And this is the wonderful message of these teachings. It's what these teachings are pointing to. It's what the Mahayana teachings are pointing to. These teachings are turning afresh the wheel of the Dharma. And this is the spirit of Zen. The spirit of Zen turns afresh the wheel of the Dharma. And we can enter into this wonderful treasure trove that is the multicolored jewel, or the rainbow body of transcendental qualities. There's no need for any philosophical discussion. We expound on insight of the nature of things as they truly are.